As many of you know, I have many controversial guests, so that comes at a cost of being demonetized everywhere. So if you want to support the program, go to fightbackpodcast.com, and I have all kinds of merch on there, whether it's jiu-jitsu, fighting, political, and other accessories. And thanks for the support. Yeah, so we're just doing a quick podcast today. We're on kind of a time crunch, but I have two of my friends, Sneako and Ian Carroll. I wanted to introduce them because I've known Sneako for a while. I actually just met Ian, but Ian, in my opinion, does some of the best investigative work on Israel. I stumbled across his videos maybe 6 months ago, but like amazing in-depth work. And this is something I know the three of us are passionate about. So it's really nice to have a little conversation and sit down. Just first off, like how long have you been doing these like TikToks and Twitters, and what got you into it?
Dude, it's been about a year exactly. And I didn't start on this train at all. I started on money, started on trying to figure out who owns everything and like where's money. Like if you want to figure out how the world works, you got to figure out how money works.
Follow the money.
Follow the money, baby.
Your bio, or not your bio, your background on Twitter says seek the truth, follow the money.
Exactly.
I had the same motto and I ended up at the same conclusion. So
yeah. And you were doing something right because you got banned off of so many fucking platforms for doing that.
Right.
Yep.
I think we all kind of stumbled across the same thing by accident. It's not something you want to stumble across.
Like weird. That's not the answer I was expecting.
Yeah, it's not. None of us want to be like, Jews in Israel are the problem. They definitely did not want to discover that, but you start seeing it, and it's hard.
I started discovering it right around October 7th too, and it was complicated because there's so much information out there on all sides, and I was looking at the CIA a lot, and I was looking at like organized crime and intelligence agencies a lot because they control so much of politics and so much of like how global economics works. And the more I started to look at Israel, the more it looked like a organized crime syndicate to me.
100%. We were having a private conversation earlier that it's more like a Jewish mafia, and that's exactly what it is. There was the Italian mafia and there was the Jewish mafia.
It's funny how they never make movies about the Jewish
mafia.
Never.
The head boss was actually Jewish, Meyer Lansky. He was the prime boss. He had blackmail allegedly of J. Edgar Hoover. What is he doing? I think he was dressed as a woman, giving someone a blowjob.
His assistant, him and Clyde Tolson. Clyde Tolson was they were famously gay. Everyone knew it, an open secret.
J. Edgar Hoover?
Yep.
Yeah. So the director of the FBI, the founder of the FBI, and then he was the director of the FBI for over 50 years, which is like insanely long time. So like all the way from like the 30s all the way through to the 80s. Like
he was powerful. He was blackmailing people, and Meyer Lansky had this guy under his control.
Yeah.
So what does the average person not know about the CIA?
Oh, dude, just about everything. I mean, the average person is shown like Jason Bourne movies, right? Like James Bond movies. But the CIA is essentially a corporate founded organization whose job is to overthrow governments, to fix elections and overthrow governments, right? And most people think of the CIA as like an intelligence gathering agency because that's what it was supposed to do.
That's the name.
Exactly. Like they're supposed to get us information about all the threats to America. But what they actually do, like their very first mission was to go and overthrow the government of Italy. And what they basically did is they just sent a bunch of dudes with duffel bags full of cash into Italy back like right after World War II to buy out the Italian election. And it worked. And you can like, there's books about it. There's tons of history about it. It's not a secret.
Yeah.
And then they just recycled that playbook over and over and over. And sometimes they do it with money. Sometimes they do it by killing people. Sometimes they do it with like propaganda and media. And they've been aligned with Israel ever since the very start.
Yeah, no, that's when you start digging. You start saying, obviously, it's not all Jews, and people need to realize it's not the Jews. The Jews are not the problem. That's where people go wrong. It's a very small network of Jewish mafia. They control things. They manipulate a lot of other Jews, though, to go along with their narrative always being the victim. So they kind of hide behind them and control them.
Well, it's the classic thing about that's how organized crime has always worked, right? It's like the mafia would go to an Italian guy and be like, "Hey, you're one of us. Like, you should work with us. And if you don't, like, it would be a shame if something happened to your shop." And so if you're Jewish and Israel comes to you, it's even more overt because it's like we're the country that represents the last hope for your religion, and we're on the brink of being exterminated at all times. And it's like that, it's an understandable in.
Yeah.
And then, they probably don't tell them what they're going to ask them to do. They probably only ask them to do as much as they're going to need them to know.
Yeah, no, the regular Jew would just know a little piece, but there's lots of, I mean, the main spying in the U.S. is Jews who don't know Israel. That's the #1 spy threat to America. Because I think it was Jonathan Pollard, the worst spy of all time. He says all Jews have dual loyalty. And that's not true. Not all, but a lot do. When you start talking to Jewish friends, you realize a lot of them, they feel loyalty to Israel because it's been planted from young.
Ben Shapiro exposed that, I think, a lot.
A
lot of Americans now understand the dual allegiance and why they shouldn't even have influence in American politics if they have allegiance to this place in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, like, what separates the CIA from a terrorist organization? Based off the way you described it,
dude. I mean, realistically, the only thing that separates it is the government backing, because the CIA has they have blown up thousands of civilians in foreign countries. They've done all the things you would call terrorist organizations for doing, and it's the same with Mossad.
Yeah.
It's all just who is calling who the names, and information warfare, which is what intelligence agencies are all about. It's all based on that sort of building of narratives, constructing of information warfare is all about creating words and using them carefully. And anti-Semitism is one version, and free and fair elections, or a threat to our democracy, or even the word terrorists. If you look at 9/11 and you look at all the interesting history about what the fuck happened on that day, which you can read about in FBI files and DEA files, official government documents about Israeli involvement. If you look at the way that the word terrorist was carefully constructed after 9/11 to mean all Arab people are terrorists, essentially. Think about who benefits the most from that. It's not America, it's Israel.
Yep.
Because Israel's over there by all the Arab nations trying to fucking...
said that in his own words, that he benefited from this.
Exactly.
And he's the one that pushed into war in Iraq.
Yep.
I think real quick, we need to remember a lot of people watching this might not know some of the stuff. So you say connections with 9/11
Very well
Israel.
said.
Do you want to maybe point some of those out? Or do you want
Yeah. And it's also important to say that, you never know for sure a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Some of it is proven
Some
beyond
for
any
sure, some is
reasonable doubt.
speculative, exactly.
And some of it sounds ridiculous when you haven't done the research for yourself, and you should do the research for yourself, because that's you should not trust anyone else to tell you
I
what's
agree.
real.
Everyone should research everything we're saying. I think the three of us have all done a lot of research, which is why we've came to this conclusion.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still wrong a lot. There's still a lot I don't know. And when you look at 9/11, it's not like we know exactly what happened. We don't know. But we do know that there are a bunch of FBI files that are public information, public record, that say in the US FBI files that are declassified that they detained a whole bunch of Israelis that were running a whole bunch of moving companies that were doing a whole bunch of suspicious stuff on 9/11, taking photos of the towers while they were burning, dancing, celebrating.
Dancing on the truck.
Some of them, one went back to Israel and said they were there to record it. And there's pictures. There was pictures of them dancing, celebrating. Later, our government took those pictures and wiped them out. So they're gone now.
2 of them were Mossad agents.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And that's all true. They were questioned and detained for about 70 days. So none of this is crazy.
And they were released for we shipped them back despite they're dancing, filming, celebrating it.
Yep.
And then it goes bigger. There was a giant spy ring that was broken up of Israelis.
Yeah.
Between hundreds of thousands. They were posing as art.
The art students. I did a whole stream on that. Those documents. It's a DEA report all about them. It's crazy. They were posing as art students and walking into government buildings, like DEA buildings, trying to sell them artwork as a way to get access. The stupidest ploy ever.
Yeah, there's also a small unit of explosive experts that were tied in with it.
Yep.
It goes crazy.
Surveillance experts.
And okay, here's another interesting spot. A lot of them were in, what was the town? It's in Florida.
I forget the name of the town.
The same town where most of the hijackers were.
Yep.
That's that. Now that is a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, the mainstream, this is what everybody knows, is that the story that they sold us, that was definitely a lie.
100%.
Going into Iraq because of 12 Saudis makes no sense. The weapons of mass destruction, that was all a lie.
The anthrax was fabricated.
All of that was so we have to look into 9/11 because that was the catalyst that determined that we were going to go into war in the Middle East.
I should clarify real quick. The anthrax wasn't fabricated. The anthrax was traced back to a CIA lab. And anthrax is a very specific chemical that you can trace like that because you can only make it in certain places.
Yeah. So just real quick, there's a few more. We could go on, but not
go on for
the whole
ages.
hour. But the guy who leased it, what was it? Silverstein. Also, he was a huge Zionist, friends of Netanyahu. He leased the building right before, took out a multi-billion-dollar.
He cashed out.
Special insurance policy that insured his buildings against plane crashes.
There's interviews of him saying how great it was. He happened to skip work that day I think he had a headache or something, and his entire family had just weird excuses. Lots of the top Israeli people just happened to not be at work that way.
There was a whole bunch of stock market trading that day, right before it all happened.
Shorting the market, just like October 7th, there was major stock market shorting. He said we could go about 9/11, the whole thing, but that's a few points people should look up.
I really think people underestimate how huge that is, because if you understand that Israel did 9/11, then your entire worldview should shift.
Yeah.
That was the catalyst that changed America's perception of the Middle East for years. It changed what we thought about foreign policy, what we thought about enemies.
Yep.
And now when you realize that it was internal and they lied about it, they intentionally killed 3,000 American civilians in order to go into war in the Middle East, your entire worldview should change.
Yeah, I want to add, I wouldn't say were certain they did it. They were involved and knew. There could be
They allowed it to
involvement,
happen.
There could be Saudi involvement, but they were definitely involved.
And let's
that
unpack
happened.
one more piece of it too, because the thing that's so unbelievable about it is like, how could anyone justify doing that, right? And so sometimes you have to like step back and put yourself in their shoes and think it through. Is like, if you're a Dick Cheney, if you're a Netanyahu, if you're these people in power, it's like, can you imagine that you might look at the geopolitical space in the world and say like, there's so much evil in this world, and there's this rising threat in the Middle East, like Arab nationalism, like the global economic, like everything is complicated. And if we don't create a good strategy to defend Western values, we could be looking at millions of American deaths, right? We could be looking at like a Muslim wave of jihad that would take it, like, and so if you can construct that narrative in your mind, which Israel is very fond of constructing, like Israel is very aware that they hate Arabs and Muslims.
Oh yeah.
And so there are ways that you can justify it. And in your own mind, if you're a Dick Cheney or if you're a George Bush, if you're a, whatever Israeli people were behind this, they can come to a worldview where it's justifiable to kill, a few thousand Americans in order to save so many more, from a greater threat.
It's crazy what you're saying, but it's true, man. It's so insane what you're saying, but I think it's true.
Where do you get most of your research? I see your shirt. You have the ANC report.
Yeah, awesome shirt. I was
From
noticing
Ryan
that
Dawson.
Dude, Ryan Dawson is the GOAT. He's been through a lot.
He gave me this, what do you call it, the map in Japan. And now, see, I didn't even know he made shirts from it. So, I mean, he does a lot of, where his brain is like an encyclopedia of this information. Where do you get most of your research?
I get almost all of mine from public sources, because my thing is that I don't want to like give information that other people cannot check for themselves. And so in a podcast setting like this, it's just my word. But in all my content, I try to put my sources on the screen directly while I'm talking with like the URL or the titles, so that anyone can just Google what I'm looking at and find it for themselves. Because the whole point is that media is controlled by certain groups.
Yeah.
And, yeah, well, yeah, Israel. And if they don't, if you can't check it for yourself, there's a step missing, and everyone should start doing that, because in the modern day, you're responsible for your own
when I first saw your
information.
videos, I fact-checked everything, but then I started trusting you. I always do that, and I first stumble across something I'm unsure, I fact-checked them. After a couple videos, I saw you're always telling the truth, so I don't fact-check all your stuff, but everyone should always do that.
Yeah.
Do you talk about this on TikTok? I'm surprised you haven't been banned. If you
I come pretty fucking close. And no, I don't talk about this as much. So I blew up on TikTok because I was like, coming down to BlackRock owns everything. And then I was going through grocery store aisles and look at products and realizing like, fuck, BlackRock owns all these products too. And like, they don't literally, but as I started to get deeper and deeper into better and better answers, and like getting into like, oh, the CIA is a big part of understanding the world. And then like, oh, fuck, Mossad is a big part of understanding the world. That's when I started to get strikes on everything, talking about Jeffrey Epstein and stuff like that. That's when I had to branch out. And now I'm hovering at like 2 strikes, and none of this kind of stuff goes there.
Question real quick. Who owns BlackRock?
Larry Fink. Actually, BlackRock was founded by 5 Jewish people. They're still all involved.
It's funny, I think they're all on your shirt too on the Epstein map.
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah, people don't realize how
some of them
evil
are.
BlackRock is. This is the biggest financial company in the world. They're the ones pushing the DIA. They're the ones pushing all the weird stuff, a lot of the gay
ESG
stuff. Like, how is that in a financial benefit? These are not our friends.
Can you explain ESG, because it's the last day of Pride Month?
ESG is in what's the actual acronym stand for?
Environmental,
social governance. Yeah. And the whole point is to incentivize corporations to be more diverse or more woke, essentially, right? And
more gay inclusive, because when you say diverse, you really just mean less white people.
yeah, more brown inclusive, more whatever. Like to not hire based
Anything
upon
but white people, especially men.
Yeah, and certainly don't hire based on merit. Hire based upon
if you're a black female.
Yeah.
But they never push us with people. They say equity. Look at Biden's cabinet. It's all Jews, no white people.
Yep.
So equity doesn't apply to Jews. It applies to everyone else.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that. I had these debates with, they call themselves the FBAs, the fundamental black Americans. They don't even understand the difference between a Jew and a white person.
Yeah, they don't. It's not the white people that are winning. It's the Jews that get put in all these powerful
It's a different
positions.
ethnicity.
Like, how many white people are in Biden's cabinet? Probably not very many.
Well, you might notice too that like depending on the situation, Jewish people will either identify as white if it's
undercover.
convenient, or they won't. And it's like, and when I was growing up, I didn't realize any of this stuff, so I would have just assumed, I would have called every Jewish person white because their skin was white. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they have dual citizenship with their ethnicity too. Not just their allegiance to countries, but they have dual citizenship with their race. Because Mark Cuban's a like really public financial guy or whatever. That's not his last name. His last name is like Finkelstein or something like that, but he goes Cuban because he lives in Florida. He wants to go undercover as a white Florida guy. You look at Jonah Hill. His real name is Jonah Hill Feldstein. They don't want to be publicized that they're extremely Jewish because then people are like, oh, well, this is why you have these connections. This is why you have all this money. They'd rather go undercover.
Well, it's a conspiracy theory to say that Jewish people run whole industries or that Jewish people would ever work together. So obviously, like, I mean, how could you even say that? That's such a fucking conspiracy theory.
It is crazy how many of them change their names. That's when I started seeing that.
Yeah.
Another moment that was a what the fuck moment for me was when someone sent me a list of all the all the white people that write books bashing white people and anti-white, and then showed me they were all Jewish. I'm like, wow.
And then also pushing abortion and pushing sexual promiscuity, pushing the feminism movement in America, who wrote Friends and these TV shows that, told people to date a lot in their 20s.
Porn, most of the porn.
Almost the whole porn industry. I mean, it's well known in the porn industry that
He wrote he wanted to do it to destroy Christian values and Western, and he wanted to push filth on them.
But now is a good time to circle back around and remember that, like, a lot of Jewish people are actually the greatest allies of the Palestinians. People like Dave Smith, comedian, great guy, like Norman Finkelstein, fucking goat of speaking up for Palestinians.
He's a legend.
And so it's like, it's not just Jewish people. It's like there's this very powerful Jewish mafia that dates back to the Rothschild family and probably before. And they have just infiltrated so many aspects of Jewish culture. And the Jewish people that see that and call it out are like legends. Holy shit, we need them. Right?
Yeah, some of my favorite people are like Glenn Greenwald, Dave Smith. These guys are ballsy. They're
100%.
calling out. They're being like, it's not anti-Semitism to call it Israel.
And
That's
they have
why we
so
need
much
to be
more
very
on the
clear.
line.
It's not the Jews. It's this network of Jew mafia. We need to start distinguishing that better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do.
I'm a little confused, Ian, because you said that you're not really conservative. You're kind of center, like liberal leaning. When you seek the truth and you follow the money and you see like how they use, like, you even talk about the CIA. These guys are like doing gay butt sex rituals in order to get power.
Yeah.
When you learn this stuff, how can you not go further right?
Dude,
that's what
I
happened
do.
to me.
I did. So I was raised liberal and I grew up in Washington State.
Same.
And then I swung pretty hard to the right once I just realized how much of that was all lies.
Yeah.
And I think I've swung back left just because, like, I think that I inherently see the need for balance, not in what today's liberalism is, but in the, like for example, yeah, exactly. Like conservatives, like, less regulation, don't fuck with me. But like liberals are like, there's sometimes you need regulation. Like when you have big corporations, you should regulate those bitches. Yeah. When you have private citizens, no, they should be free as fuck. Like balance.
Yeah, we should ban all lobbying, all corporate PAC money. That's a liberal stance, but I think that's part of the problem. That's how Israel controls America. That's how Big Pharma controls America. That's how they're fucking us. So I don't call myself liberal conservative, but I guess I lean conservative as well.
And right now, because it used to be when I was young, it was that the let's say the military industrial complex, the Israeli complex, all these, they were using the conservative side of the world to control America. They were buying the conservative side. It's like the George Bush presidency during the Iraq War. And so from growing up in a liberal household, it was easy to look up and be like, the conservatives are controlled, they're bought, they're evil. But they realized at a certain point, somewhere around Obama, that liberal values in a modern world with technology and everything, liberal values are way easier to exploit and more powerful to control people's minds because you can create these mind viruses for the greater goods.
By appealing to emotion
and
feelings.
And conservatives are inherently immunized against the greater good because the whole point is like individual liberty. But the moment you go liberal, it's like, no, we should all work together and band together, and like, welfare as a concept is like we should all work together and pool our resources in order to uplift those that are less advantaged, which is, a perfectly legitimate idea when done correctly. But if you then take that idea and you apply it to like, well, we're all hurting the climate, and so we should regulate your carbon usage, but not mine, then that will be for the greater good.
They all have private jets, people saying that.
Exactly. And so they switched sides. And so right now, because the power structure is built out of the liberal power base, I think that's why so many of us are swinging conservative, because we look up and we're like, wow, this liberal shit is bullshit.
Well, for me, I considered myself a new conservative, but then it really switched with the Israel war because all of a sudden I thought we were anti-war. Boom, we were pro-war instantly and against free speech when it was I was I'm a free speech absolutist, and I'm anti-war without rare exceptions. And I watched the right and left just switch overnight. That was one of those moments I was like, wow.
Yeah, we realized that the real line was not left and right. The real line was Israel-Palestine, and then left and right.
Yeah, but both sides support Israel. The left does a little bit left, but not really. It's because the people on the left don't. But the politicians still do whatever they ask.
Yep. I mean, October 7th helped me realize that mental trap of identifying as right and left or conservative or liberal, Republican, Democrat, because then you could easily switch and be pro or anti-war. To me, the only thing that makes sense is putting religion first. I think because that's where like you go to what even is conservative values. What does that mean? Because when you have girls come in, like you know, like the nigga girl Lily, she's funny. Like I got to meet her.
She's a nice girl. She got
but at
way
the same
too much
time,
hate, I think.
Is it really conservative to be like drinking a beer and be like, fuck these broke niggas? Like a woman, like shouldn't she be? If that was conservative, she would not be on camera and she'd be cooking for a family at home.
I personally don't really like these right-left narratives. I just like my opinions, what I believe to be true, what I believe to be right. That's this whole this paradigm. It makes people jump on one side because their side doesn't. It's so stupid.
Well, it's information warfare 101.
Yeah, every issue we should decide for our own. You shouldn't just be like, my party believes this, I believe that.
Exactly. It's a trap because you can't trust these people. If you follow the money, they're always going to be swayed by money. You can't blindly follow that. I mean, my family, same thing growing up. They would go to the polls whenever George Bush was running against Kerry, stuff like that. Blue, 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 blue. Why? Because Democrats are good and Republicans are evil. You don't even know any of these people. So I think the only thing that's going to be uncorrupted is faith in God, and then everything stems from there. And if anything changes, if that changes your faith, then you should not follow that.
Yeah, God and what's right. And if you believe in God, you should believe what's right. That's why I see these Christians and they're just selling themselves out, selling their soul. It's disgusting. And I'm not religious, but I do strongly believe in a God. So I see these guys, they say they're men of God and they just completely sell their souls out for money. It just disgusts me.
Everyone has that voice inside of them. Even if you don't think you're religious, everyone has that voice inside them that tells them what's right. And like, that is God. And
no, exactly. I strongly
that's
believe
the voice
in God.
of God.
I just haven't,
and you can hear it.
We definitely believe it. I definitely believe in God. I just haven't joined an organized religion at this point.
Yeah, I'm on that train.
What have you learned about Epstein that you think the average person doesn't know?
Dude, so fucking much. I mean, it's good that the average person does know about him. And it's good, like the meme, Epstein didn't kill himself. That's amazing because that sort of in everyone's mind, there's this group awareness that like there's more to that story. But what is more to that story that most people they don't want everyone to know is that he was a Mossad asset. He was an Israeli spy. He was uplifted by Jewish people all throughout his career from like literally nothing. Like he was a unqualified math teacher. And then suddenly he was like a big shot banker. And then suddenly he was managing Les Wexner's multi-billion-dollar fund. Like, and so there's just, he was groomed for his position because he was a dirty piece of shit and he was a math teacher that was groping his students, and he, probably had other relations and skills.
Had a lot of charisma, and he must have been a 100% guy, could talk.
Great code switcher.
He was selected. He wasn't the boss.
Selected, and then he was put into place in order to run the front of that operation. But there were many others. He was not the only one.
Maxwell was behind it. People bought her, but Maxwell was his handler.
I
think Dershowitz, was part of it. I don't think he was a victim of it. I think he was helping running it.
They need lawyers.
He said he's an agent of Israel. So it goes deep. Every aspect of it is Jewish, and the girls on there always said they would call them trash and goyim, and they're pathetic because they're not Jewish. And the prime minister of Israel, I can't think the number of times, but he flew into New York and would sneak into Epstein's house 30-something times. Or I don't know, maybe you know.
He was one of the most prolific,
But he wasn't going to the island. He was going to the house to talk to Epstein. So he wasn't going out there to take sex with the girls.
Well, it wasn't just the island. He had houses. He had a house in Palm Beach. He had a ranch. He had
the really dark shit that people don't know about at that ranch is there was other stuff going on at that ranch that never really came out. It's hard to know for sure because it got buried. But it's like
it got raided though.
It got raided, and a lot of the evidence a lot of the stuff that was there, hidden as fuck. You can
say a little speculation.
Because you got to remember that he was interested in science, in high science, and a lot of it was genetics, and a lot of it was breeding, and a lot of it, there's a lot of questions about like what. Like people, the word on the sort of like street of the victims of Epstein is that ranch was a breeding center for either genetic experiments or genetic testing, or Lord knows what's going on. And there is lots of talk in the sort of satanic ritual abuse survivor sphere, which is way bigger than most people realize. That's like very much a real thing.
That's a deep.
It's fucked up. Yeah. So it's a dark rabbit hole. It's very real. There are many people that are survivors of like essentially the global, like Satanism is a religion that does exist globally, and it's
created by a Jew.
Yep. And
Church of Satan, it should be called the Synagogue of Satan.
Synagogue of Satan.
Yeah, look up Alondra Markman. And they talk about breeding centers because the global satanic religion network, that cult, is a very powerful one with a lot of very rich people in it, and it is probably aligned in some ways. This, like, I'm talking about a specific survivor who talked about meeting Epstein himself, and he also talked about going to breeding centers where they were breeding based upon Ashkenazi heritage.
Wow, I haven't heard any of this.
That's it's crazy. Wild. Yeah, I did a whole. I mean, and
that video up.
It is just one survivor's testimony.
It sounds like there's definitely could easily be some truth to it.
It's just one survivor's testimony, but there are many survivors that give similar testimony, and it's like there's just this whole deeper layer beneath the Epstein was just running this like underage girls blackmail.
Hey guys, Jake Shields here. If If you want to support Fight Back Podcast, our brand new sponsor is Think Zinc. They're a company that supports free speech and they're opposed to genocide. This is a 7-1 formula with all the highest grade vitamins and minerals. It has magnesium, zinc, vitamin E, vitamin C, and house and MCT oils. This is great for elite athletes and the common person. Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
He had Mossad backing him. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, had direct connections to Mossad. So they said he was like a finance guru. This guy had no sort of education in this. He didn't know anything about money. He never ran a business. Why would he be able to control this? He had all the time in the world to do these crazy experiments. I think that, you think any of this is going to come to light? Do you think more information is going to come out?
I think so. I think that it won't come from the government. I don't think it'll come from anyone releasing it. But I think that this mafia, this Israeli mafia, is inherently underestimating the power of these things. And I think that they are inherently not prepared for the networking that the internet is allowing regular people to do.
We're bringing together, you know, it's like we need to do a lot more than what we're doing, but waking people up. It's like, you know, none of us want to talk about this. This isn't something we want to do. We felt like we had to work. Everyone told me, don't do this, don't do this. You're going to ruin your career. It's going to cost your life. But I felt like I had
I just wanted to do research about GameStop and buy like GameStop stock. That's all I wanted to fucking do.
Started with GME and then you found out about satanic rituals.
Yeah, we don't want to be talking about this. I think
I want to go back to my regular life.
Yeah, it was me too. It was like, wait, why am I locked inside for COVID right now? Why is my girlfriend like wiping down the groceries with a Clorox wipe? And then you're like, oh, satanic rituals. Like, it's just very quickly you go down the rabbit hole. But what do you think they're doing now to prepare for this information warfare? The fact that I think there's more people than ever waking up, and they must be planning. We were talking about that, me and Jake, like, what are they going to do to combat this? Because there's never been this many people aware.
World War III. It's the best thing to do in order to stop the flow of information is to create an emergency that means you would have to stop the flow of information, right? And how COVID was, they were able to use COVID in order to shut down businesses, in order to shut, like that was the emergency that gave them the power to do those shutdowns. So war is no longer fought kinetically, right? War is no longer, I'm like guys with guns going, it is in small wars, like, you know, little proxy wars. But if you're talking like Russia versus America, Iran versus America, that is a Cold War, right? And cyber war and things like that. And the moment you have cyber war, Cold War on a big global scale, that is, you know, the reasoning, the logic behind shutting down the internet, shutting down your rights to speak, shutting down, because suddenly we are all threats or we are all potential terrorists, potential bad. Some version of that is my biggest fear.
Doesn't the TikTok bill give it authority to to take it away? Sort of, exactly.
It's unclear. I'm no legal scholar, but it kind of looks that way. And you know, go figure. Israel, Steve Mnuchin, is getting together a whole band of his Israeli buddies trying to buy TikTok because anywhere that information can spread, they got to lock it down. And so they came for X with the advertising boycott of Elon. Fortunately, he seems to have weathered that storm and hopefully only kissed the wall, you know.
And he went to Auschwitz too. No one really wants to take a tour to Auschwitz. No. With Ben Shapiro guiding you.
I wonder if he saw the door to those gas chambers.
Vacation, those wooden doors.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he should have taken Candace with him to ask some questions. The wooden doors. Shout out Candace Owens, you're the GOAT.
Elon's doing a good job though of weathering the storm. Ban the ADL was huge, and that advertising warfare was huge. And so the fact that he I mean, there's no way he doesn't he's not asking questions.
At the very least, he's standing up for free speech. And it's working for now, right? And it's giving us a platform in which to have conversations that are largely uncensored.
But it's just getting it was almost a mistake on their part to allow some sort of free speech, because Nick Fuentes tweeted yesterday just the word Jews.
They blocked it. You can't say the word Jews.
It's hateful conduct. If you tweet Muslims, it's not hateful conduct. If you tweet whites, blacks, anything
on Twitter,
they doomed him just the word Jew. They did hateful contact.
That's it. No, just the Jew.
Like how crazy.
But you know, the beauty of it is that like, how hypocritical, like how obvious is it now?
It's too obvious.
It's in front of everyone's faces.
They also did it. You can say I forget what it was, but you can basically bash Christianity, Islam. But if you say synagogue of Satan, they block it. Like Church of Satan, you could say like Islam Satan, but then the synagogue of Satan, boom, it's blocked. Hateful speech.
They have to control information.
One more thing I want to jump back real quick. We're talking about Satanism. What do you make of the giant, crazy on Epstein Island, there was that temple. It's so weird.
Yeah.
That was clearly, why would a rich person have a temple with like...
That had a lot of weird
strange.
symbology in it.
The owls.
I think that regular people like us can't imagine why symbolism would be so important. Why, like, you can't imagine Satanism. You just can't. But it's very real, and it has been for a very long time in the exact same way that other religions are very real, and in the exact same way that like witchcraft was real in the old days. And it's like there are 8 billion people on this planet, and if you think about the kind of people that become billionaires, right? Do you think they're good people? Like, how do you become a fucking billionaire? Probably by being a really eccentric, really driven, really psychotic, maybe kind of broken and damaged person. And if you get 100 of those people in a room, do you think one of them is going to be kind of a sociopathic serial killer type of a person? Those are the kinds of people that would turn to things like Satanism. And powerful people are naturally drawn to those kinds of powerful, dark. Yeah. It's like the Sith Lords.
If you look through the sacrifice of human history of human sacrifice, it's been going on all over the world, all kinds of places. It's not like it's something new or rare. It's been like a massive thing.
And if anyone, we're not going to go down this one, but if anyone wants a fucking rabbit hole, look up the Wendigo in Native American cultures. The Wendigo is a really fascinating rabbit hole in Native American cultures. It was their legend of what happened to you when you became a cannibal, when you ate human flesh or drank human blood.
I want to go down this rabbit hole.
Okay.
Please tell me about this.
Okay, so think about it. I'll just
Have you heard about this?
I haven't. No, it's new to me.
I'll do it in the simplest possible terms.
Got great information.
Check this out. If you lived before modern civilization had grocery stores, right? Food is your most important resource. Right. And in a winter, like up in Canada, you might starve during the winter, any given winter, if you have a bad harvest, if you can't find the food, it's very common to starve. And so cannibalism, for almost all of human history, was a very serious threat to the human population, because anytime that food is scarce, there is the natural, obvious tendency to eat each other, right? But from an evolutionary standpoint, that's super fucked, right? Because then suddenly you're going to destroy your own gene pools. And so that's just the setup, because in Native American cultures, there are cultural myths in North America, in American and Native Canadian Indians. They have these myths of what is called the Wendigo, which is the spirit that takes over your body when you consume human flesh. And it's told to children, probably still is in some places, in order to essentially stigmatize cannibalism, that you shouldn't do it. Because they have all these legends that were told both by white men recording it, like in history books, as well as by natives recording it like during the colonial periods, of essentially like addictive behaviors of like, once someone did it once, like a man does it to his family, and then he gets addicted to it, and then he keeps doing it. And it's hard to parse out whether that's stories or not, but just so all I'll say is that that's an interesting myth, and when you start to think it through, there's a lot of like kind of scientific trains of thought you could take from that. And then think about things like, when we're creating drugs, stem cells are one of the most powerful things to create drugs from. And stem cells come from human tissues that are regenerating, especially from kids and babies, right? And so I don't know what all that means, but I know that there is stem cells is a scientific fact. Wendigo is a historical fact. And you can go down both those rabbit holes. And then you kind of wind up at like all these weird modern conspiracy theories and questions that I don't know which ones are real and not, but it's worth asking them.
So are you insinuating that the elite eat babies to have different powers?
No, I'm insinuating that it is silly to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, in the sense that people think that something so grotesque could never happen. And those are the same people that would have thought before Epstein got caught, they would have thought that child trafficking could never happen, that the president of the United States would never be fucking kids. Like,
let me throw another one out there. The spirit cooking lady, what's her name?
Oh yeah, Marina Abramovich.
Same tribe. She does some, you've heard of this? That's weird stuff. Yeah. They fake human sacrifice. She hangs out with all the elites of the world.
Lady Gaga.
Zelensky asked her by name to be what he asked her, what a powerful position there. He's also the same tribe. Zelensky.
Yeah, she's literally like giving like economic advice or something in Ukraine. Everyone that's out there, look up spirit cooking Marina Abramovich.
Yes. She does satanic rituals. Yeah. She was doing one for Hillary Clinton that got caught in the emails of WikiLeaks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why are they doing private spirit cooking, which is a witch sacred, and they do fake human sacrifices? There's videos of this, like, they have people that are pretending to eat. It's just some real life witchery. Yeah,
there was stuff on those laptops that wasn't pretend.
Yeah, people, it's just 100% true that she was doing spirit cooking for Hillary Clinton, and they mix, like, cum and blood and...
Yep.
And they it's like a satanic. It's just real. Look up imagery
Black
of
magic
her.
and shit.
And there's images of her with kids. It really disturbs me too. She's holding little kids, covering their eyes, and it's just It's some sick, disturbing stuff. And she is not like some random Jewish lady. She rolls in the biggest
she's
power
Jewish
circles.
too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You're starting to see a little bit pattern here.
I mean, they don't do a good job. They like telling you what they do. I mean, if you look at the Balenciaga advertisements, they put it right in your face that this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They
the
find it
pictures
funny.
of her doing satanic stuff, like holding little kids, covering their eyes, kids looking scared. It's
Same thing with
sick stuff.
Prince Charles, I think it was. He just released that painting where you flip it upside down. It's literally just the Baphomet connected. It's not hidden anymore. It's not crazy. Like back when I was growing up, you'd watch a YouTube documentary with some cheesy X-Files music. And it'd be like Jay-Z, like reverse. But now it's like right in your face. It's not.
They mock people for saying Satanism, but then they have this Maria chick doing it right in front of our faces with the elites running the world.
And real talk, the Jay-Z song in reverse is super fucking weird.
She also hangs out with Jay-Z.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember P. Diddy. Everyone remember what happened to P. Diddy?
You did great work on P.
Jay-Z's
Diddy.
fucking next, dude.
Maybe you should jump in P. Diddy real quick. So you actually did a great video on that. Just a quick.
Oh yeah, I mean, just like P. Diddy was. Yeah, P. Diddy was running a fucking blackmail ring in the rap industry, just like Epstein was in the political realm. And yeah, P. Diddy's not Jewish, but then you look at the people that were managing him, the people that brought him up, the people that put him in that position, like the owner of Universal Music Group, who was sponsoring those parties and attending those parties. That was basically his handle. Like that dude. Well, he is Jewish, but you know, who knows? But he runs Universal Music Group had 33 out of the top 100 songs last year. That includes Taylor Swift. That includes people like that song "Unholy" by Sam Smith.
Unholy.
Yeah, look at this music. They're putting Satan in all kinds of.
I know he's
imagery
literally
in the
dressed
Go
up
down
as
the line.
Satan, twerking, naked, doing gay.
The guy that started the Church of Satan, he wanted to work with Hollywood to put Satanism in films.
Yeah. And once again, I didn't fucking know or believe or like I would have written all of this off. I was raised in the left. This was all fucking conspiracy theories. And that's why I encourage everyone to just go look it up for yourself. Don't believe a single fucking thing I'm saying because you might have a different interpretation of the evidence. Just go in with an open mind and just ask yourself the questions like, what do I really know about the world and where did I get that information from? Because if you got it from public school, that's wrong. If you got it from the mainstream media, those are lies. And if you got it from people telling you things or just like watching YouTube videos, maybe you should just think a little more critically and look for sources for yourself.
Yeah, if you're questioning something, you always should look it up yourself. Unfortunately, it's getting harder with search engines because the ADL works with Google, which is
ChatGPT is replacing everything.
And Google's owned by.
You guys and anyone that out there that has ChatGPT, you guys should ask it about how many siblings Sam Altman has. You guys know Sam Altman?
What's Sam Altman?
Sam Altman is the guy that owns ChatGPT. Yeah, he is. But Sam Altman has a sister, and ChatGPT will not tell you about her.
Really?
Because she accused Sam Altman of physically and like sexually abusing her as a child.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. ChatGPT. Like a month ago, I asked it what was the first terrorist attack in the Middle East, and it told me the King David Hotel, which was a terrorist attack in the 40.
Did they fix that answer?
They switched it.
I
a
bet.
month later, I checked it and it wasn't anymore. So I posted it and they switched
whoa,
it.
that is that is some misinformation right there, bro.
It admitted the first terrorist attack in the Middle East was Jews. And then a month later, it switched it and doesn't say that anymore. It goes back way further in history to some like sword attack that was like not really a terrorist attack.
Well, yeah, because we wouldn't want to spread misinformation and Jewish conspiracy theories.
They're
obviously
the ones that brought terrorism to the Middle East, the Zionists, when they formed Palestine. There was multiple groups that were doing constant terrorist attacks, both on Palestinians, on the British that lived there. They were capturing and hanging British people. They disguised themselves as Arabs and went to the King David Hotel and they bombed it, trying to blame Arabs, killing I think 90-something people. It was the largest.
And there's primary source information on all of that in official U.S. documents. Like it's not. That's not. This
is all 100% admitted and proven. They also attacked American and British embassy all over Egypt, trying to blame Egypt to get America to go to war with them, and the Levant Fair, that they were caught for that. These are things that are 100% proven. Like the 9/11s are speculation. These are 100% proven and admitted.
And so maybe we should rewind a little bit and just talk a little bit about like, how is this even fucking possible, right? And it sounds cheesy, but maybe the simplest way to get there is to think about the Rothschild family. Because clearly the Rothschild family is just one really powerful family from the days of old. But like when you look back, you've got it's the robber baron generation. You had, the JP Morgan came to power at the end of that. But the Rothschilds go back even further. And it's back in this day of like aristocracy and like regal like bloodlines where power was even more centralized and like wealth was even more kind of like collected into family coffers than it is, or at least than it seems today. And the Rothschilds are well known for like the Rothschilds took down the whole Bank of England. Like that's how they made their fortune, was by sort of like tricking all of the English stock market during the Napoleonic Wars and then basically buying the stock market out from under England And that family is the exact family to whom Israel was essentially sold by the British Empire in order to, like, read the Balfour Declaration. And, you know, people try to say it's like, nah, it wasn't to, like, about getting into the war. It's like, it was to get into the war.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they sold it out.
And you can read the
also
primary
promised that
source
land to
documents.
the Palestinians in a separate thing. That's why they tried pulling back on their offer, but then they kept tacking them.
Well,
with
to the
terrorist
Ottoman
attacks.
Empire at the time. Yeah, they promised the Ottomans. It was during World War I, is they made a bunch of different deals of like, we need to win this war, and if you help us, we'll give you, you know.
But then they needed the money, so they also promised it to the Rothschilds.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, it gets. I've tried figuring out how it started, and I mean, I guess the Rothschilds. That's what it doesn't.
I mean, I'm
it's
sure
hard
it started
tracking back to there.
before
Probably-
then.
It seems like it goes before them is the crazy
Yeah.
part. You look back even further in history, but that was definitely where they really got the money.
That's just the most obvious thread that like anyone can look up more or less, and like they're very real. And actually, there's some sick ass stuff. I've done some sick digging into like the Rothschilds working with the CIA to like smuggle drugs during the Vietnam era that has not really broken. They're still very much around and fully functional.
Open wars in China, same people. We won't get to that right now, though. But it just goes down like every rabbit hole. You start thinking you're crazy, but then you dig, and it just keeps being like, oh, the Mafia.
Yeah, I've been going down this rabbit hole for years, and like right now, this conversation is just making me like extremely jaded about that. It's just like, is everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Even then, you said 33 of the top 100 songs that Universal Music Group, like 33 is like their numerology term. It's just like, is all this just, is all of it fabricated? I want to hear more about Jay-Z though. So you think he's next? I always, I don't know who said it, but it's funny that Jay-Z goes around with the Basquiat haircut, like celebrating Basquiat. Basquiat was a heroin addict and a gay prostitute in New York. And I went back to New York recently, and all the graffiti, all the paintings everywhere are literally satanic paintings. Like you see graveyards literally drawn on garage doors and witches coming out of there. And this is the village where Basquiat was doing graffiti. Jay-Z's kind of, is emulating this guy. Why do you think he's next? Because he was pretty good friends with Diddy.
Yeah, super good friends with Diddy. And I don't know as he's necessarily next. I fucking hope he is. And the way I look at it, Jay-Z has all the markers of a similar type of an op, you know, both from the way he acts to the people he knows. But the thing is that he's way more involved in politics. And I think, this is just me speculating, but I think that Diddy got hung out to dry because he was getting fucking sloppy, right? Yeah. Diddy was drunk on his power. He was totally out of control and unhinged. And Jay-Z's kind of more effective. Jay-Z's like pretty dialed in, super effective. And Jay-Z is tied into people like Hillary Clinton and the politicians there, Barack Obama, right?
Spirit cooking lady.
Yeah, exactly. And so if Diddy were allowed to blow back onto Jay-Z, that blows back onto a whole other fucking rabbit hole of connections, because it looks more and more like there are, you know, let's say blackmail rings in each of these different industries, in Hollywood, in politics, in music, probably in other places too.
Other countries too have stumbled across them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so I mean, because really, like, if men rule the world, what better way to control all those men than through their sexual urges, through their deviant sexual urges that you have fostered throughout their lives by feeding them messages in pornography and rap music, for example. I mean, rap music plays the dual role of subverting black people so that black people are all fucking like, you know, promoting whole culture and stuff. How bad has that
been for black culture?
It's destroyed them.
And that was all not necessarily created, but it was all pushed.
Well, don't forget the crack epidemic that the CIA took good care of. You know, like the CIA literally imported all the crack cocaine.
Yeah, then they pushed black people to push just pure degeneracy, shooting each other, and I'm sure that was not good for culture.
And if you call it out, they call you racist for acknowledging something that everybody's aware of. Like Sexy Red is just the representation of everything terrible in black culture. And, you know, calling that out doesn't mean that you hate black people. It means that you hate what the CIA propped up black culture. Like, Sexy Red is not the representation of black people in America, but if you look at everybody who manages her, you understand why they want to subvert that.
Exactly.
But what do you think Jay-Z was involved in? The thing that started waking me up was he was supposed to be best friends with Ye, and on Ye 24, Jay-Z was completely quiet.
Yep.
Like, he's really politically involved, and then one of his best friends, Ye, called him Big Brother back in late registration. Jay-Z doesn't say a word of support. Ye gets canceled, gets debanked, gets demonetized, gets canceled off every single social media platform, and Jay-Z did not say a word.
I mean, I think you said it perfectly, man. And when you pair that with the amazing success that Jay-Z had, not just in the rap industry, getting built up in the rap industry, but then getting built bigger than the rap industry, like, I think we've all seen through the Diddy lawsuit and through the way that, like, industry works, that you don't get promoted if you're not playing ball. And who do you have to play ball with in order to get? I mean, just ask Michael Jackson who you have to play ball.
Yeah, who died mysteriously way.
Exactly. And so
wasn't the head of his security end up being the head of security?
That was the
for P. Diddy right after?
craziest connection. Fahim Muhammad, head of Michael Jackson's security, 22-year-old kid, just graduated college with a business and marketing degree. He becomes the head of security for the King of Pop at 22, 23 years old. And then on the job, Michael Jackson dies like within his first, year of
the first person to
work.
find his body.
Yeah, he was the second on the scene, at least according to him in court. Then Fahim Muhammad, this 24-year-old kid, gets promoted from being the head of security for Michael Jackson, who just died on his watch, to being the head of Diddy's security, where he's literally running a sexual blackmail ring.
Was this the guy that Diddy said was his fixer?
Yeah, his fixer, who could make problems go away.
Disappear and problems, and that was the guy. So right when Michael Jackson died, and Michael Jackson, I don't know if you know, he was not a fan of that tribe.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about.
So yeah, you're aware.
Sue me, everybody. Yep.
Like what do you say? Kike me, bite me.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they censored those words. They censored and all that. Yeah. And it's really sad actually to look at Michael Jackson's legacy, because he was a very tormented soul, right? Like he went through a lot of hardship, but he was such a kind and wonderful human. And when you actually dig through the history, like it's very clear that all the pedophile stuff was total slander. The FBI investigated him for like 10 years. You can just go to the Wikipedia page. Even on Wikipedia, you can go and read, and Wikipedia is literally like Mossad's crown jewel of information warfare. But Wikipedia tells
ADL,
you,
by the way, which is amazing. They banned ADL as a source. They said they're not trustworthy anymore. That happened a couple of days ago, which is huge.
Let's go Wikipedia.
That was a huge win.
Yeah,
but they still control Google and stuff. But that was a huge win for Wikipedia. But yeah, no, I believe the Michael Jackson pedophile stuff, and I feel so bad to just think he's this evil person, and you go, oh, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he did just care about kids, and because. There was one celebrity kid that always swore he didn't.
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, and he'd always swear. He just didn't want to admit it. And you're like, man, he was probably telling the truth.
Yeah, and the more you dig into it, the more you realize that Michael Jackson was just a really kind, big kid, kind of, who had his childhood taken from him and just wanted to do right by the world. Wonderful dude.
And they make you out to be the worst possible thing you could be.
And then they fucking kill you. Whoops.
What was his doctor? Michael Jackson's doctor?
I forget his name, but his doctor was prescribing him these things to help him sleep. He's prescribing him things that he, like sedatives to help him sleep that he wasn't supposed to be. I looked in. I don't know if his doctor was Jewish. I forget. I try not to like go overbearing on everybody has to be Jewish.
It's just like that will make you like not.
Yeah, it's unhealthy, and it's like, and that's not the point. The point is not that like all Jewish people are in on this thing. The point is that like is that Jewish people are susceptible to being approached by this organization, and we need to support the Jewish people that reject it. Like we need to
encourage them to be on our side. So I think these people that are bad, they're a big problem because we need to bring Jews to our side, not push them away, not be like, you're a Jew.
We need to heal. We don't need to like create more divides, because the last thing we need is to create another Holocaust of sorts, whatever that was. Like we don't need to like, and I don't mean that flippantly, like any death is death. I'm just saying that like you don't create more death or more reasons for division in order to like you need to heal. And in order to heal, we need to realize that Israel is the leading cause of anti-Semitism in this world today. Right. And any Jew that realizes that, like, thank you for seeing that and speaking up, because we need to all unite around like just stop killing people, especially kids. Like,
I mean,
stop colonizing.
And I get a lot of hate mail from Jews, but then I do get sometimes I get some positive message being like, "Thank you, I woke up to my own people. We don't all hate you." So I do get those messages too. So there are some that are seeing it. I get a lot more "fuck you," "I hope you die," "I want to rape you," and stuff like that. But they're really obsessed with rape. It's kind of weird.
One of the biggest wake up calls was when Ye started talking about this, and then he showed the messages that he was getting
from Harley Pasternak,
who was able to get Ellen Page to become Elliot Page. One of these celebrity handlers.
Too? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What is he?
Ellen Page was an Inception. She was a pretty girl, and then
what was the guy? Was he the same or no? Or is he not a
Harley Pasternak?
Yeah.
He's the celebrity trainer. He is a. And he was military intelligence for Canada. And there's an interview online where he's talking about what he used to do for them. And he's talking about how he used to test drugs for Canadian military intelligence. And they ask him what kind of drugs. And he's like, oh, like shit you've never heard of.
Mind control
stuff.
Yeah,
mind control stuff.
Wow.
Right, exactly.
And
that was his message.
Mansion, that mind
Bingo.
control and Ultra
MK Ultra, all that stuff.
And tell us about Ye's text messages real quick.
Ye sent the text message after he started talking about Israel. And Harley Pasternak said, like, oh, I'm going to send you to the shadow realm. Like, I'll send you to zombie land.
I'll drug you up so much that your Christmas with the kids will never be the same. Or
basically,
I'm
going to take you away from your kids, and I'm going to drug you up so much you're never going to be the same again. And then you understand why you see celebrities pop up sometimes when they start asking questions. Like, you see a TMZ report like, oh, crazy celebrity was running through the streets naked. Like, why did this happen? This guy was just in a movie I loved. He suddenly went insane. It's like, okay, well, maybe they had a celebrity trainer that was giving them some information and urging them, maybe your depression will be solved if you cut your dick off and you become Elliot Page and you change your gender.
I mean, what they did to that girl. She was a pretty girl. Now you see this depression.
She looks so sad.
It's just,
they say trans joy and you see pure sadness in her eyes. It makes me so mad when I see that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that trans people deserve so much compassion and love. It's like, you guys have been through so much, and it's so hard. It's like it's so complicated, but it's like, we don't need to like hate them for what they're going through. We need to talk about the people that are doing it to them. And it's like, especially the people that are doing it to people that don't have fully informed consent, especially kids. Holy shit, a kid can't consent to that. Like, that's not.
It's just evil. These doctors are pushing on them, the therapists, the teachers. It's just pure evil.
Well, the problem is that they make us seem like the hateful ones who's like, well, trans people have the highest suicide rate. Well, let's say, well, enabling their delusion and their mental illness is not going to make it better. After they transition, the suicide rate doesn't decrease. It goes up. Like, after 7 years, they realize that this existence is meaningless, and then the dopamine wears off of becoming Elliot instead of Ellen. Then they realize their body's different.
It's completely irreversible. It's extreme. Like, the health defects or the health problems that come from that are massive. And you are now locked into a pharma cocktail of life-saving medications that you will die without, like, for the rest of your life. That's like a $100,000 payday for big pharma. Every trans person ish. At least.
Well, what I noticed, especially with the girls that are trans, it's usually girls that aren't pretty, they're unpopular, and they become trans. It gives them a community to fit in. I saw that up in Marin, where my
girls turning
my
to
daughter
guys?
was going to school, and a lot of the girls were pretending. Hopefully, most of them didn't get surgeries, but they weren't really trans. They just weren't fitting in, so they became trans to have a community.
Yeah, essentially tomboys,
It happens in clusters a lot. Like 3 or 4 of them come together. Also, autistic girls they're preying on.
Interesting. That's the thing, is that it's social contagion. In my generation, it was anorexia. And that's what, when you see social contagion, because actual things don't just like explode across the community out of nowhere. It's like, it's not a disease, but suddenly, like, in literally 5 years, it goes from like 1 in 1,000 to like literally 1 in 4 kids are trans identifying. That is clearly social contagion.
Yeah, it's evil. People pushing this are evil.
Stuff in the food. And I think it goes back to
the food.
We were saying about human sacrifices and stuff that they eat babies and the Satanism. I think abortion, I think transgenderism, I think it's all part of that same thing. I think that they get off on the fact that they're sacrificing these people to go and appease whatever gods they believe in.
I don't necessarily disagree. I don't know. But another argument for people that don't agree with you, another argument that is worth considering for anyone that wants a different one, is listen to Bill Gates and eugenicists in general talk about eugenics. As in, Bill Gates is just a good example of people, for a long time, scientists, total scientists, have always been coming up against this issue that when you think about the planet and you think about humans, and like, we're not the best at keeping the planet nice, like we pollute our rivers, whatever. The problem in their eyes is we have too many people, right? And so it would be a better world if we had less people. And I'm speaking because fuck these guys. But, and so if we had less people, like, that would be good for everyone. And so how can we get less people? But we wouldn't want to get rid of we would want to get rid of the bad people, right? Because we want to improve our gene pool. This is how they think. And this is classical eugenics. And you can see the sick irony or the sick logic in it. And Bill Gates is on stage at TED. You can go and look it up on the internet, saying that if there's about 8 billion people, that's too many people. And if we do a really good job with vaccines in the next 5 years, we could bring that down by like 2 or 3 billion people. What the fuck did you just say on stage?
The vaccines are killing people, it sounds like.
Excuse me? Like,
and they're encouraging people to be gay, not have kids. I mean,
abortions.
We're meant to pass kids on. That's the number one thing we're meant to do here as human, is pass on our genes. It's like, if you believe in God, to not have kids seems like you're not really doing what you're put here to do.
And so you could put yourselves in the shoes of these really rich people that believe in science, and if they, from their perspective, it's like, well, the weak, the poor, the depressed, the sad, these people that are, lesser, they're not doing great for the gene pool. They're getting poisoned by our food, whatever. It's like, those people are not super productive members of society. And so if the bottom of society is kind of getting clipped off and not breeding, that's actually better for everyone else, because only the strong should be breeding, and we'll have less people, and that'll be good for everyone. That is classical eugenics. And that is always the downfall of scientific thinking gone too far.
Did you get vaccinated by the COVID vaccine?
Nope.
Right.
And that's actually the first time I said that on the internet.
Let's go.
You needed it, right?
Absolutely not.
Right, so
maybe that was
I survived the whole way.
From people like Bill Gates, it was like a litmus test to see like who should not continue the human race. Like, if they're dumb enough to fall for this, then maybe they shouldn't reproduce anymore.
And unfortunately, so many good people fell for it because this messaging was so. And I live in a super liberal place.
I wasn't allowed to go in a restaurant or a bar. Luckily, some people know me, let me in still. I was completely ostracized from society because I wouldn't take it. But I just said, fuck you.
Yeah, at a certain point, it just like, and this was like at the beginning of my wake up. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew something was wrong. And the more they pushed it, the more I was just like, this is not right.
My friends were like, oh, just take it be easy. Just wear the mask. I'm just like, no, fuck you. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not taking a vaccine. I'm not a fucking coward.
What really
You
gave
guys
it
need to
away
stop doing it.
is that they closed the gyms, but not the fast food joints. And that they said you can't go outside, but you can they stopped everything that was healthy and they encouraged everything that was unhealthy. While we knew that being unhealthy was the leading cause of death with the disease. And I'm sitting there like a 28-year-old ultra runner. Like, bro,
I can't go run.
Yeah, fucking come at me, bro. Like, there's no way I'm going to let a 300-pound health minister tell me what to do with
we're
my
healthy
health.
people. I looked at the data when it was Italy. I knew I was going to be fine. If I'm smart enough to look at that, the experts were too. That's when I knew they were lying. That's when I really started following politics because I carefully looked through the data. I don't think I'm a genius. And then
I'm definitely not.
I was very clear that it wasn't that dangerous for people like us. But then they were telling us it was anyways. And I'm like, these people aren't smart. I'm not smarter than these people. They're just fucking lying to us. And it forced me to, I didn't want to get involved in politics. I was forced. COVID really, because that's right when I retired too. I had nothing going on. And they're like, you have to sit around your home. Then I go, oh, I'm going to go hiking. They closed the hiking trails. They closed the beaches.
And they would come at you, dude. They'd come after you.
I'm going to travel around and go to the national parks. They closed the national parks.
Yep.
The big one
was war, man.
But they kept the corporations open.
I went to the beach and they had a divider for like exit entrance during COVID. And it was closer. The exit part was closer, and I just like walked through the exit. And there was like a lady masked up at the beach, like, go around. I'm like 10 feet away from you.
Yeah, they closed them in California. We get arrested for being there.
This rope here doesn't define where COVID is. And I'm like, there's a plague going on.
Mass psychosis.
The real pandemic was infecting people's minds, was getting
100%.
was brainwashing people with information. And now there's a big awakening happening.
Thank God.
That's why I started tweeting. I go, this is just too much. I have to start putting my voice out there. I got a lot of hate in the beginning. My managers or agents all saying I'm going to ruin my career, but I'm like, I just have to speak truth. This is like people have lost their minds.
Well, I mean, I'm still waiting to die. I was told I would die, right? I was told like I'm still waiting for the issues to start. I've been seeing a lot of people drop dead, but I don't think they're the unvaccinated.
No, I know a lot of people that were young and healthy that unfortunately have vaccine side effects.
I know a lot of I know a lot of people that were old too that have vaccine side effects that are getting passed off as elderly effects, like things like micro strokes that make you lose a little bit of memory that you don't realize actually very well could have been because the vaccine has a lot of clotting stuff, a lot of blood issues, and that can come about as like little strokes or little heart attacks or little whatevers,
Yeah, they'll never admit it. The deaths are up, but they'll never admit it.
And we still need to talk about how bad the social programming was. People really ostracized and alienated me for not taking the vaccine. They told me that I was an evil person, that I'm killing grandmas.
I lost all my friends.
It sounds insane saying it now, but people, I had lost friendships. I wasn't able to see family. Like I was ostracized just for not wanting to get a shot. And now everyone's like, oh, well, and we moved on so quickly.
I bet no one apologized to you either, huh?
Nobody.
No, not a single one.
Not a single person apologized to me. Nobody.
One person.
No one called and apologized. I would accept their apology if they did, but no one has.
And I lost my YouTube channel talking about this. I'm still banned on YouTube 2 years later for medical misinformation, and I was right.
And I mean, and you aren't a medical expert, and you were right, but they were also banning medical experts. Like the foremost medical experts in the field were getting banned. And just a quick plug, like RFK, a lot of problems with him, especially when you're talking about Israel. But if you want to read the first chapter of his book about Anthony Fauci,
amazing book.
It will fucking blow people's brains out with how well researched it is and how we were not told who the fuck Fauci was when he came on that stage.
Everyone should read that book.
And everyone who was around for the AIDS pandemic should have had their eyes already open and been like, we know this guy. And he's a piece of shit.
My cousin died from his drug that he gave him. When I read that book, I was like, wow, he killed my cousin. My cousin was fine with AIDS, and they gave him that, and he got really sick as soon as what was that drug called?
I forget the one for AIDS.
It's what killed him. I watched. I read that. I got so mad at Fauci. I watched that fucker kill my cousin. He killed a lot of people.
Yep. Same. Anyone that got remdesivir. So remdesivir, his pet drug for the reason why they didn't want you to take ivermectin, and what's the chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, is because those are things that treat it beforehand, and that means you can't get the emergency use authorization for the vaccines.
Exactly.
But those work great, and there's like hundreds of studies that show they do, and that's all coming out now. But the one that he wanted to push was his proprietary one, and it was an IV, so it only gets administered in the hospital later, so it doesn't fuck up the vaccine emergency use. But it had been tested in 2019 because what they do is they develop a drug and then they just test it on all sorts of shit to see what it can work for, what they can sell it for. So it's patented, so it's going to be really expensive. And remdesivir was tested in 2019 in Africa on Ebola patients. And in that test on Ebola patients, it killed more than half of the people that he gave remdesivir to. And it killed them like within a month. So they had to shut down the fucking study because he was killing his patients with remdesivir. And it was obvious. And that data is out there. And then literally 2 years later, remdesivir was what he sold to the American public to cure COVID.
That's what they pushed because there's a lot of money in it. The other thing that was killing people was the ventilators. You know, so they quietly stopped. Remember, we need more ventilators. Then they just went quiet. It's because they were killing people. They'll never admit that either.
Yep. Well, because the real thing you had to do with it was you had to treat them early, and people like Dr. Peter McCullough, all these doctors that were getting silenced, they were the ones out there doing the actual science to figure out that you need to treat it, which is what you always do. Anytime there's a pandemic, normal medical, like what you do is you just say, what drugs do we have in our cabinet that we know are safe? Try them all and see if they fucking work. Obviously. Like when you have a kid and they're sick and you don't know what it is and you can't afford a doctor, you open your medicine cabinet and you say, what do I have here that might help? And you try it because ibuprofen is safe, right? You give them some ibuprofen. It doesn't fucking matter. And ivermectin is one of the safest drugs ever known to man.
Yeah, we knew that was safe. We didn't know if it worked or not, but we knew it was safe.
And then they started trying it, and it fucking worked really well as long as you did it early before you got really sick.
What makes me so mad is no one will be held accountable. People should be hung for this, and there'll be no accountability. They killed thousands of people. The majority of people were dying not from COVID, but from ventilators and what do you call it?
Remdesivir?
Yeah. These were shutting their organs down. We know this now, but they never even talk about it. And these people, they would silence people that were speaking the truth. It's just...
I was talking about this with Stu Peters, and he makes a good argument. Well, even having this conversation, it's like, how did they get away with this and the entire country is not lighting up torches and storming?
Dude, I don't know.
Right?
Well, I mean, look what happened January 6th. Guys are 30 years in jail for storming the Capitol. I'm not saying January 6th was right, but it was far, far less than
Well,
George
it's
Floyd
also
riots.
important to remember that, like, it wasn't even really storming. None of them.
Wasn't
They
that
didn't
big of
take
a deal.
weapons with them. They
were
didn't have weapons.
They were taking selfies.
Yeah, I mean, they were
and-
let in the front doors for the most part. They got a few shots of, like, very specific acts of violence. But for the most part, people were, like, literally let in the doors and given a tour by fucking Capitol Police.
You know what's crazy? I was on an airport and I stopped through and way back from Morocco. I was in DC that day and I was joking around. Should I get off the plane? But I was not like a huge Trump supporter. But I'm like, oh, maybe fun, just check out. And thank God I didn't. I could have just my dumb ass might have just like,
You would have been in fucking jail, dude.
People walking in.
I mean, I'm still not a Trump supporter. Fuck that guy. He's like such a backwards dude.
Such a
Like, I
hardcore
like
Zionist.
to think that like it would be sick if Trump really was on our team, and certainly he seems better than Biden.
Yeah, that's
but
all,
like,
that's all you can say about him.
Yeah, I mean, like he went back on all of his promises when he was in. Like he was fucking all for corporations. He's the one that had the lockdowns. He let Fauci literally stick it up his ass for 4 years.
He pushed the vaccine.
100%.
The first time he didn't push it on the debate, we were talking about that. He pushed it nonstop. The debate, he finally didn't push the vaccine. He was still pushing it a month ago. The vaccine I made that killed people. And like I said, he shut the country down. Yeah, Biden wanted longer lockdowns, but he shut the country down. And I was strongly against that 2 weeks.
The spirit of being American is when you get a 2% tax from a foreign nation, you dump the boats into the ocean and spill all the tea. Right now, we're occupied by Israel, and we're doing nothing. We're being killed.
We're literally sending them all of our fucking tax money that's supposed to be fixing our roads and educating our kids and paying for our health care.
It's being used
and
for
it's
genocide.
being used for
kill
bombing
children,
kids and their free health care and for like their transgender surgeries or whatever it is that like Israel is literally just taking our money and then they're using it to lobby our politicians with a 98% success rate. Thank you very much, AIPAC.
AIPAC.
Holy shit.
We should touch into AIPAC real quick. We don't have a lot of time.
oh
Because
my
AIPAC
God.
is one of the biggest ways they control us. They take money. Every single foreign lobby is registered under FARA, the
Foreign Actor Registration
They
Act.
are not. They're the
Foreign
only
agent.
one that is not registered for unknown reasons.
And I went back and looked through the primary source data, like the actual letters and notes that were sent back and forth between Israel and America. It's like you can find it online. And the leading into the year that President John F. Kennedy was killed just happened to be that his presidency, they were in talks with Israel saying you need to register under
he
FARA.
was demanding it.
He was demanding it, and it got more and more serious. And then they finally sent them all the paperwork, and they sent them a letter that said, "Here's all the paperwork. You need to register under FARA." Like 2 weeks later, boom, he's mysteriously dead. I'm not saying. I mean, I would never.
well,
I don't know what happened, but 2 weeks later or whatever, just then Israel writes back and says, "I don't think so."
Never got brought up again. There's a lot more mysterious.
And to
things
this
that
day,
came
they
in.
are not registered, and what that means is that we can't see where their money comes from. So we don't know if it's coming from our tax money that's going to them.
It probably is. It probably literally gets funneled to our money goes to Israel. They can funnel it straight back to AIPAC to buy our politicians, and they win 98% of their elections, and they openly brag about it.
It might be 95. They have different stats for different parts of our Congress, and you can go to their website and they'll brag all about it.
It's clearly election meddling. I saw they put the other day they won the last 195 elections straight. We're controlled by a foreign nation. Yeah, you might want to go back real into Kennedy. There's some interesting other aspects.
There's some other dirt to dig up on him. I got some more digs to
There's a lot of
do now.
speculation, but a little more than speculation. I think
I'm
there's
a little
lot
concerned.
Of, There's Oswald supposedly shot him, but then this guy Jack Rubenstein.
Oh, you mean that
Jewish.
Kennedy? Yeah, that Kennedy. I'm
Like
saying
Kennedy.
our modern Kennedy. We've got some
he's
questions
unfortunate too because I really like Kennedy. He's extremely anti-war.
I know, but they killed his whole family, and now he's simping for them.
Yeah, as soon as they
Kinda
mention Israel, he starts
weird.
stuttering. He starts saying they're the most moral army in the world, and they're just disgusting what they do. I'm in the Telegram channels. I've never seen any more disgusting people what they do over in Palestine. It just makes me sick.
Yeah, and
You
then
it's
brag
hard to-
about it.
Yeah, just like
Gloat about it.
killing little kids, laughing about it. It's brutal. But yeah, his stance on Israel makes no sense to his worldview, and I suspect he's blackmailed. You know, he was tied in with Maxwell and Epstein and.
He seems a bit
Yes.
like a womanizer. Like a lot of guys in that family end
Do you
up.
know about his diary?
No.
I just heard about it, and I got to research it more. I'm not stoked about that dig.
Yeah,
He apparently kept diaries of his.
Sexual exploits.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
I
he ranked
figured.
his women in different categories. There was
Yeah. Let's be real. They probably got
leaked
him
on
on
the
sexual
internet.
blackmail.
they almost certainly have him on some underage girls. Be my guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
You
what
can
they
just tell when Israel comes up, he gets uncomfortable. He starts stuttering. He starts saying they're the world's most moral army.
Yep.
He-
And I
one-
like to think that addicts can recover and change their lives forever. But I mean, once you've been a recovered addict, that door is always in your soul to be opened again, maybe through other addictions too, unfortunately. So I'm not saying I know anything for sure, but I'm saying I'm about to dig. So
Yeah, no, kicking addictions is hard.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess we got to wrap this up pretty quick. I think everything went.
Oh, we
flew
could
by,
fucking
but
go forever. I
We're
mean,
gonna,
like,
have to, we're gonna have to do another one because we
Yeah.
barely.
This is not the last one,
There's so
but-
much
Yeah.
we didn't touch on. We touched
everyone
on a few
just
subjects.
go do your
'cause
own research.
But
Just,
thanks, Ian. I want to.
That was only the surface. What people don't realize.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
crazy.
I want to do investigative research
Yeah.
on see what you've done, and then trace everything. Maybe
That's
I'll,
why I'm glad I connected you guys. I
Yeah,
told you,
no,
you gotta eat me.
that's
Ian.
great.
my next stream after look at yourself. I'm gonna have like red straw.
yeah,
string
let's go,
everywhere.
Charlie Day, baby.
I'm gonna have black eye. Like I'm gonna be looking like this and connecting the
Yeah.
dots. But it was good, and this information is important. These conversations are necessary, and I'm glad that you're speaking the truth because there's not a lot
Amen.
of us out there.
What, you're just Ian Carroll on Twitter.
Ian Carroll on
and,
Twitter. It's Cancel This Clothing Company, and on Twitter it's Cancel Cloco. But if you just look up Cancel This Clothing Company or Ian Carroll, I come up all
And
over
you're
the
just
place.
Sneako, and then Jake shows AJJ on Twitter for me. So
Let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
So
cool.
now let's go and watch the UFC, which was just bought by a Jewish person.
Hey man, I love Dana White.
Yeah, you should do a little dig into that because
I'm
curious,
going
'cause
to.
Dana White's the president, but he's not the owner. The guy who owns it now is Jewish. And, I mean,
Yep.
we won't get into their.
Have you
UFC
noticed
secret.
sometimes when you go to the UFC, there's like a little bit of a I don't know, there's something.
There was definitely something off yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we'll get
I don't know
into
if it was you or me or both of us.
Could have been either one, but yeah. Thanks for coming on. I highly appreciate you, and we're gonna go watch the UFC. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks, man.